And it's Friki de Bici, riding my bici around Valencia, Spain. Today, we're gonna ride to the beach. We're doing it for a reason, not just because I like going to the beach. We were there last night, and it got me thinking about some things, particularly that in my news feed these days, there are lots of stories about bikes, and most of the stories about bikes happen to be about bike lanes. And as is always the case in the discussions about bike lanes, most people, particularly people who drive cars, tend to hate them, and cyclists tend to love them and want them. I fall somewhere in the middle. The cool thing about riding to the beach here is that you can do it solely on bike lanes, other than the cyclocage that I rode on leaving my apartment and getting to the first main drag you take to the beach. You're all bike laned to get there. Different types of bike lanes, but all bike lanes nevertheless. So I'm not anti-bike lane as a cyclist. To give you a preview, I think it's really pretty incredible, the network, the infrastructure that's in place in this city. The fact that I can get from Rusafa to the beach in 15-20 minutes, probably a little bit faster if I really hammered it, and do it all on bike lanes like this one that are either off streets or protected from the traffic. It's pretty incredible. Doesn't exist in a lot of places, and it certainly doesn't exist where I come from in the United States of America. You literally could not ride your bike from where I lived in central Los Angeles to the beach in any pleasant, convenient, or efficient way. You had to drive. And the beaches that you would go to, minimum 40-minute drive, maybe an hour. You get there, you pay $15 to park. You want to order a pizza and bring it to the beach? Oh, there's another 25. Like, it's just, you know. I caught the bug for cycling again shortly after getting here. I knew we were going to ride our bikes to do things in Valencia, but I didn't realize the extent to which it would take off. The bike was my primary mode of transportation when I lived in San Francisco. And at the same time, I was studying urban planning, so I was like super into bikes and super into a lot of the issues that connect them to urban planning and politics and public policy and everything. Then, after moving to Orange County to go to graduate school, moving to Los Angeles to be in a less suburban environment, moving to Santa Monica where my kid grew up, I rode probably a bit more in Santa Monica because it's way more bike friendly than the city of Los Angeles, but never to the extent that I was riding in San Francisco. But it wasn't like I was using the bike as my primary form of transportation, even when we lived in Santa Monica. That place was so small that you would just walk everywhere. Valencia is small, but not quite in the same way. If you wanted to walk to the beach, it's taking you over an hour. It'll take you longer to get to the beach on public transportation than it would on your bike. It might even take you longer in a car at some points in the day. Depends on the traffic, which compared to LA is clearly not all that bad here. But anyway, I never expected to get into cycling like I have in Valencia, get back into it the way I have. And it's really a pretty cool thing to have experienced. It's always been one of my passions. It's always been my built-in form of exercise. By the way, I've never driven that street to the beach and not hit a red light. I'm gonna have to time this, but this is easily the fastest ride to the beach ever, if it keeps up resembling anything like this. And it just highlights the efficiency of this network, which is fantastic. But there's a few things about bike lanes and bike paths and so forth that I think that people that really want them overlook. You see, the way that it works is that, and this is part of why I ditched urban planning and decided not to make it a career, either as a professor or somebody that would work in government or even do research privately. I ditched it because everything always turns into a fight. It's very political. It turns into this battle of, this is what I believe, this is my ideology, and I am going to devote myself to that, as opposed to devoting myself to the actual and original cause, which presumably is making cycling safer and better and more accessible to larger numbers of people. No, we just need to be right. We need to counter the other side. So you have the other side, which ends up being super anti-bicycle and anti-pedestrian infrastructure, which is just stupid. And then you have the cycling advocates who just, well, we just need bike lanes because that shows progress. And those are both very black and white, counter and unproductive ways to look at the whole situation. There's always nuance, and it gets ignored, particularly in the United States, but really everywhere around the world. A lot of these articles I'm seeing about bike lanes and fights are coming from places like Toronto. Some are even coming from Spain. It's unfortunate how the argument takes shape. But for example, the bike lane that we were on back there, where it was a bit more shaky and noisy, you probably heard my lock rattling. There are these tiled bike lanes, the best thing I know to call them. And they're fine, but some of those tiles knock loose, some of them are missing. You have to be very careful if you're riding on that bike lane. If you hit one of those divots, there's a decent chance you're going down. Whereas in this bike lane, which is the home stretch to the neighborhood where the beach is, or the beach we're going to today, the Cabanal, this is super smooth. Like, you don't hear my lock, you hear nothing. Probably one of my favorite bike lanes in the city, other than the fact that when it's busy, you have some pedestrian noise. People getting into crosswalks and maybe not looking or whatever, but can handle that. But more than whether it's bumpy and flat or smooth or well taken care of or not, there are just certain bike lanes that are less safe to be in. And I think in the argument of, oh, we just need to put in bike lanes, to put in bike infrastructure, because that's the only way we're going to win, I think it misses that point. This is a fine bike lane to be in, but in a minute we're going to be in one, or maybe not be in one. We'll see what choice I make when I get there, where it is honestly, and I want to promote these things because I'm not encouraging people to break the rules. Like, I ride how I ride because that's how I ride. And I feel like I'm good at it and I know what I'm doing and I have a logic and a basis behind it. But the last thing I want to do is tell somebody who has no business adapting the rules to fit their philosophy or their style, especially if you don't have one yet, is that you should break the rules. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is what I do and this is why I do it. And if you ride a lot, you might be able to relate. Or maybe you'll completely disagree with me. That's fine. But it's like, rule number one is you never want to box yourself in somewhere as a cyclist. That's why you go through a red light once in a while to get ahead of the pack of cars and trucks that are staying with you at that red light. You got to get ahead of them. Give yourself some space between them, because if you take off with them, you're going to be in between all of them, and there's just too many opportunities for you to get hit. So now we are in the Cabanyal, which is a gentrifying neighborhood along the coast and on the way to the beach. And same goes for a bike lane. There are times when the bike lane is not the better option than being in the street. And many cyclists think just because they have a bike lane that it's automatically the better and the right and the safer choice. It isn't. Bike lanes lead a lot of people that ride into a false sense of security. Well, I'm in the bike lane, so I'm protected. And it makes me think of a study that was done that there may not be any truth to this study. It was just one finding, but it's interesting nevertheless, and whether it's empirically correct or not, it makes a valid point. And it was that cyclists that wore helmets, cars rode closer to them than cyclists who were not wearing helmets. And the conclusion the authors of the study came to was that, well, this tells us that drivers perceive this extra layer of safety because somebody has a helmet on, and they're going to take maybe more liberties when they ride around them. Whereas the person without the helmet, they're going to be more careful with. So, okay, for example, this is the bike lane that leads right to the beach, okay? So I'm on it now. It's protected from the street with parked cars. During the late afternoon, the early evening, and the later evening, there's always something going on in it. It's always a bit of a mess. This part right here where you turn, there's always people hanging out, like just chilling, which I have no problem with. It's great. Like, this neighborhood is so cool like that. But it's always dicey being in the bike lane right there. So definitely coming back from the beach when you're with traffic, I ride in the street. Occasionally, I'll do this, because this is not a very heavily trafficked street. I'll just ride in it here anyway. Now, there was no need to do that now. I'm just doing it to show what I mean, because it's early right now. We're talking like, it's like 10 in the morning, and things have not gotten going. There's just not a lot happening here right now. But that bike lane can be pretty chaotic. When it's busy here. Man, we made it to the beach so fucking fast. Holy cow. That is pretty cool. All right. I love the beach here. All right, I think I'm gonna lock up my bike, walk out to the coast so you can see the Mediterranean Sea. Man, I should have brought my bathing suit. So tempting. All right, enough of that. I could stay here all day. So yeah, I think the bike lane conversation is super interesting, even though it's super black and white and can be annoying. So yeah, like this bike lane, not a fan of it. So I always ride in the street right here. the bike lane leading out of here. Super big fan of it. Coming up at a really nice tree canopied part of this street that leads into the park, which will take us into the old city. Goes by a lot of university buildings, and just really, really, really nice over here. Especially once you get to where the trees are. The stuff you learn when you study urban planning is really cool. Like, you know, you look and you see the trees, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you start studying, and I remember Portland, Oregon has like the best streets with these tree canopies where the trees grow from each side and then grow in and meet in the middle. And it's part of the policy, it's written into the urban plan that they want to create tree canopies on all these streets. And then I discovered that Santa Monica has a similar thing. And when you have, like, where we were just riding compared to where we're riding now, like, oh my God, the difference is just striking, right? Like, it's incredible. And here, now there's no trees, and you got the sun beating down on you, and there's no sense of calm and cool, there's no shade. And then, in a second, we're gonna re-enter this beautiful canopy with this park in the middle of the streets, sort of like Panhandle Park in San Francisco, that leads into what is sort of like Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. Speaking of San Francisco, cops there would have run your ass over. The environment you can ride through here within just minutes. All right, I'm gonna make an executive decision here to turn off the GoPro and enjoy the rest of my late morning, early afternoon before I go do some work, which will include editing some video later on, because I've got a lot and I don't want to have too much, because that would be overwhelming and a waste of space and maybe a waste of time, mine and yours. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and if you would like to support the project, I have some ways you can do that in the description below. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to editing this into some different videos that you can enjoy when you're sitting back, doing what I do. My wife and I, most nights, many nights, we just, that sounded like Donald Trump there, I hated that. Some people say every single night, we sit back and we watch YouTube videos, and I see a lot of people that are really good at what they do, and they're helping inspire me and make me want to be better at doing this myself, so thank you.